We're going to use the word courage tonight. It's a word that doesn't come up much on this program because this hour is mostly devoted to politics and government, as it will be tonight. And so when we talk about courage tonight, we'll be talking about political courage. We're not talking about the kind of courage it takes to go into military combat or to go into a coal mine. We're not talking about Sully Sullenberger courage. We're talking about that very, very low grade of courage that we very rarely see in politicians. And it is precisely because we see it so rarely that we will spend some time tonight honoring political courage. If we don't honor political courage when we see it, then we will see less of it, much less. Because I worked on the Democratic staff of the United States Senate for several years, I still have the Senate staff reaction on days like today. And I know that I was joined by hundreds, maybe even thousands of Senate staffers who were watching on their televisions, in their offices, in the 3 Senate office buildings when Mitt Romney became the first senator in history today to vote against a president of his own party in a Senate impeachment trial verdict. I jumped out of my chair, and for the first time in my life, I cheered Mitt Romney.
Mr. Romney.
Guilty.
Mr. Romney, guilty.
That was political courage, historic political courage. We will have much more to say about Mitt Romney throughout this hour, but what Mitt Romney did was not the most courageous thing that happened on the Senate floor today. Mitt Romney won 62% of the vote in Utah and is not up for re-election until 2024, when this vote, and possibly even Donald Trump, will be long forgotten. Voting against your party is not the only form of political courage. In fact, when I was working in the Senate, that didn't take any courage at all. Senators from both parties in the 1990s routinely voted against their parties, and no one thought that that was courageous then. But casting a vote in the Senate that makes your own re-election more difficult has always been the most politically courageous thing a senator can do. Doug Jones did that today. Doug Jones won his Senate seat in Alabama with 49.97% of the vote in a special election in 2017. He was the first Democrat to win a Senate seat in Alabama since 1992, when Richard Shelby won re-election as a Democrat. But Richard Shelby found life as a Democrat in Alabama so impossible that he changed parties 2 years later and is still sitting in the Senate as a Republican senator who voted not guilty today after Doug Jones voted guilty on both articles of impeachment. Life was hard enough for a Democratic senator from Alabama when Doug Jones woke up this morning, and when he rose to speak in the Senate today, Doug Jones made his re-election in Alabama this year all the more difficult.
Candidly, to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, I fear that moral courage, country before party, is a rare commodity these days. We can write about it and talk about it in speeches and in the media, but it is harder to put into action when political careers may be on the line.
Doug Jones put his political career on the line today, standing at the desk that was used by the young Massachusetts Senator John F. Kennedy before he became president of the United States. Doug Jones put his political career on the line today because, in his words, it is simply a matter of right and wrong.
The evidence clearly proves that the president used the weight of his office and the weight of the United States government to seek to coerce a foreign government to interfere in our election for his personal political benefit. His actions were more than simply inappropriate. They were an abuse of power. I believe that the president deliberately and unconstitutionally obstructed Congress by refusing to cooperate with the investigation in any way. The president's actions demonstrate a belief that he is above the law. Accordingly, I will vote to convict the president on both articles of impeachment. I am mindful, Mr. President, that I am standing at a desk that once was used by John F. Kennedy, who famously wrote Profiles in Courage, and there will be so many who will simply look at what I'm doing today and say it is a profiling courage. It is not. It is simply a matter of right and wrong. Doing right is not a courageous act. It is simply following your oath.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.